Welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, where we pull back the curtain on the intricate world of data-driven marketing. On this show, we delve into the convergence of marketing as an art form and data as a scientific foundation, unveiling the secrets to turning raw data into marketing gold. I'm your host, Catherine Turnoff, Senior Product Manager at Deluxe. Join us as we dive into real-life case studies and give you a front row seat to industry pioneers and visionaries. Welcome to Marketer's Alchemy, turning data into gold. I'm Catherine Turnoff, and I'm here with Michael Freeman, VP of Marketing at Airbase, where he builds happy, resilient, and flexible teams that generate value for B2B companies. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So before we dive into our conversation, what is something that most people don't know about you that you could share with our listeners?
Sure. I got an early start in business where I actually raised pigs for 4-H, and I would get a pig in the spring, raise it, and then show it at the county fair in Paso Robles, California, and auction it off.
That is something most people couldn't say. I want to know, but I don't want to know, but I'm going to ask, what happens to the pigs? Like they go on to live in a farm, right?
No. It helps provide sustenance and nourishment for families in the local area.
Got it.
Yeah, that first year was a little bit difficult to say goodbye.
It was a big life lesson, I'm sure.
It was.
It's a circle of life, though. Yeah.
Exactly.
So if we shift gears, can you tell us a little bit about your career journey leading up to your role as Vice President of Marketing at Airbase?
Yeah, I have a pretty eclectic background. I've worked for a variety of industries, companies, ownership structures. I think there's kind of three core drivers that you can see that persist throughout the career or throughout my career. And really, I have a deep need to understand how things work, what makes them tick. And by extension, that led me into marketing because I really love understanding people, what makes them tick and how they make decisions.
Yep.
And fundamentally, marketing is all about understanding people and how they make decisions. And then the third piece is I believe strongly in if you're going to do something, do it well. And so that leads me to always try to eke out continuous improvement. And so, whether I was doing more of a supply chain operations role or marketing role, all those three things were always there. I was trying to understand how they work, understand the people behind those things, and then see what can we do to continually improve.
So I would imagine those things drive you forward always, right? You're always improving, always kind of iterating.
100%. And so I started my career early in kind of supply chain operations roles, procurement roles. And then after I got my MBA, I decided to focus exclusively on marketing. And then when I got the opportunity to join Airbase, it was perfect because we're procure-to-pay software. So I was able to combine my digital marketing experience, the years I had spent marketing to the office of the CFO, and then also my early career experience with procurement, sourcing, operations. And so this is a great capstone.
So speaking of all this experience, let's head into our first segment, Alchemy Unveiled, Mixing Marketing Potions. So what sort of data does Airbase use to help customers identify their uncontrolled spend?
So Airbase, we're procure-to-pay software, and so really we help companies manage all of their non-payroll spend. So every organization in the world spends money. They buy goods and services from suppliers or vendors. And so we're really that end-to-end platform that helps them manage how all of that spending is orchestrated in their organization. So from the initial request to the approvals, whether it's a purchase request or an invoice approval or a payment approval, all the way through to the payments being made and the accounting being handled in their ERP. Finally, even to the analysis thereafter of how a company spends money. So when you look at the core of that, you're talking about vendor information, category spend, department level information, renewal dates, volumes, cycle times for approvals. And that's from a corporate level all the way down to a department and an employee level. And so with that data, companies can get a better handle of the expense side of their business and figure out ways that they can optimize that spend, either being able to do things faster, work with fewer suppliers but negotiate better discounts, eliminate maverick spend, you name it. We're giving them the tools to manage their business. So like we have a saying that we like to help companies control their destiny, because when you control your spend, you control your destiny. I mean, I think moving out of a zero interest rate world, a lot of
Yep.
companies have been spending the last year plus on figuring out, okay, how do we control our destiny? Because it's going to be a lot harder to raise money. So, hey, we control our expenses. How can we be smarter and more strategic with the way we spend our money? And Airbase helps teams do that.
Awesome. Okay. So how do you use data to support Airbase's mission?
I mean, there's two different ways, right? So obviously there's the data that we give our customers to basically control their spend more wisely and control their destiny. And then separately, there's the data that we use within Airbase to better reach our customers and our prospects and explain to them the kind of the virtues of procure to pay built for the mid-market. Let me explain a little bit kind of where we sit in the market, because this becomes very, very important. So within the procure to pay category, that's what we're talking about. That's where we operate. There's historically been two bad choices for companies that sit in the mid-market. Either they had to go adopt a very expensive, very complicated, very difficult to use piece of legacy enterprise software like Ariba or Coupa. Great tools for Fortune 100 type companies, but large footprint, very expensive, slow time to value. Or companies had to stitch together a hodgepodge of point solutions that were really for one piece of that orchestrated spend cycle. And so they might have a lighter footprint, quicker time to value, but they only covered one piece. So they had this kind of Frankenstein monster of tools. And we fill that gap and give them that end-to-end process that gives you that enterprise power, but that kind of light footprint, quick time to value that you might get from some point solutions. For us, what's really important is understanding in the market who can benefit most from that type of solution. So we're really zeroing in on companies in the mid-market. So the way we describe it, we tend to think of it as between 200 and up to 5,000 employees for the most part. And so we're really zeroing in on that. And we're zeroing in on what their likely use cases are with how they spend money. So we tend to focus on companies that are dealing with mostly services type procurement or purchasing, not a lot of inventorying of goods, supply chain operations. There's dedicated tools that are usually built for that type of spend. And so we're really focusing on indirect spend, so things that are not showing up on an assembly line, if you will. And so for us, we're looking at the data that we can get to identify the right people at the companies that are most likely to have the types of use cases that are services based, and they're at the right size in the market.
Got it. So what types of tools do you use to help you understand your customers better?
I mean, the number one tool to understand customers is really Gong. So I listen to Gong calls regularly. Obviously, I use Zoom, or if I get the chance to meet with customers in person, even better. But spending that time to understand your customer is probably the single most valuable thing you can do, because you're not guessing anymore. You're hearing from them. I mean, I like to think of it this way: like, listen to the person who has the money. They have the money, and our job is our job is to do something so valuable for them they're willing to let go of that money out of their hand and give it to us. So I want to hear what they have to say. I don't want to tell them what they're thinking. I want to hear what they're thinking. And so I listen to Gong calls all the time at existing customers, prospects on the first call, calls that are mid cycle, late stage deals. I want to hear it from the customer.
Does this voice of the customer input and the evolution of the product change your target market and how you reach them?
Every market's always in a constant state of change and evolution, right? Because there's market dynamics, there's your own dynamics, there's competitive dynamics. And so I think we're always looking at where do we see the market going, where are we going? And so making sure that we have not only the product and offering, but also in the way we go to market, that we can sell to customers and provide value today with a path that helps get them more value over time. But it's not, hey, you have to adopt the whole system on day one. We'll grow with you. Let's talk about where your pain is today. And so I think that's one of the key things that we've had to evolve as we've continued to have success and move up market.
So now I want to take a moment to dig deep into Airbase and some of their initiatives. So let's move on to our next segment, From Nuggets to Campaign Gold. Just this year alone, Airbase has received wide recognition for its work through awards including the Remote Global Icon Award, Forbes America's Best Startups, and the Stevie Award for Most Innovative Company. So, how does this innovation show up in your marketing efforts?
I think one of the first things to call out is we have one of our core values is small teams move mountains. And we try to live by that every day, every week, every month. And so we don't see challenges as insurmountable. We figure out a way. And so I think, from how does that translate into marketing is we're competing against very large companies with very big budgets.
Yeah.
And we have a small, scrappy team, and our budget is never going to be as large as a lot of the folks that we're competing with. So we have to be very clever. You got to keep asking, get to 5 whys, dig deeper, and then you're going to uncover the insight that's going to make you make a better decision.
What has been your most successful campaign for your procurement solution to date? And why did it do so well?
So I think the most important thing, and therefore probably the most successful thing that we've done, at least since I've joined, is driving more clarity in our positioning. And so that's been very important for us and effective because with that clarity of identity and that clarity of message, we can get to valuable conversations faster, and we're much more likely to be included in a sales cycle that we might not have been otherwise. Because let's say someone needed a new procurement solution. If they just think of us as a corporate card solution, they wouldn't even talk to us. Now we're having those conversations. One level deeper, we spend a lot of time talking about features in the past. And it's not shocking news to say, don't talk about features, talk about benefits, or talk about pains. And for me, we've leaned a lot more into pains. We still have a lot more work to do on that to get it kind of across all of our assets and materials. But I'm leaning a lot more into pain. And the reason for that is I have a general point of view that how you look at things and decisions depends on whether you sit in a cost center or a profit center. And so profit centers, they tend to be risk takers. Salespeople, marketers, they're risk takers. They want to go be the big winner and be able to brag about it. And so they want to hear about benefits and all these great things. Folks that sit in a cost center, it's more about avoiding pain. Right? They just need to make sure they do their job and they don't embarrass their boss or embarrass themselves or get yelled at. And so they really feel pain in a very negative way. And we want to relieve them of that pain and help them avoid that pain. And so more and more of our messaging, we are talking about the pains that exist with the status quo and then how we can help them avoid that pain. And then layer in, you don't want to be completely negative. So you want to layer in some inspiration as well, right? So that's where you get to the tagline we talked about earlier of controlling your destiny, right? That's a positive, inspirational message, like take control of your destiny. Who doesn't want that?
Right.
But combining the two has been key for us. And so people feel like, when we're talking about the pains they have, people are like, yeah, you understand me. You know what my life is day to day. Oh, and you can help me avoid that? Okay, tell me more. And I think that's been, first is getting our category right, quick understanding of what the value we provide. And then here's the ways that we can help you that's going to resonate in an emotional way. Because people are rational, for sure, but they're also human beings. They're not just robots, at least not yet. And so, so we need to make sure that we're tapping into that emotional core that's going to help drive that decision and a sense of urgency.
I love that idea of taking the persona one step deeper. And I think it makes so much sense, right? Just the types of personalities in the two very different jobs. I think having a clearer positioning and then like speaking to what speaks to them is genius. I think that really makes a lot of sense as to why it would be more successful. So now for our last segment, we like to have a little bit of fun here in what we call the gold rush round. What is the most absurd myth about data-driven marketing that you've ever encountered?
So I don't know if I'd call it a myth, but maybe just a misunderstanding. And that is people just jump into data without spending the time to ask the right question in the first place or to understand how is this data created? What are the assumptions behind it? What do these things mean? And so I just see people jumping in and just start building reports and pulling things out, and then making inferences off those answers, which may or may not be accurate, but they're probably often, or very often, they're not actually answering the underlying question that the person has. So I think the way that people can combat this is, before you jump into any data, really spend the time thinking about, what question am I really trying to answer? What blind spots might I have, or are what are the ways that this data that I'm looking at, or I'm going to go ask for, how does it get created? And so if I can understand those things, I'm much more likely to get results that truly solve my problem or give me the insights I need to make the right decision. And that's something I think that everyone can improve upon. But I think marketers especially, most marketers are not very technical and tend to just jump in and just run with the results, and spending a little time up front is gonna pay off well for everyone.
We hear that a lot in this segment, actually, that that marketers tend to think they know what the answer is, and so they head toward that without, like you said, taking that step back to really, what are we trying to solve? Makes sense.
Absolutely.
What do you see as an important data innovation coming to marketers in the near future?
I'm going to say something unique that no one has ever said before. I think
No doubt you
AI.
will.
I think AI is going to have a big impact on our lives. I mean, look.
I love that you're mentioning this. I haven't heard it.
Yeah, little secret here.
Yeah, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, look. It's just, think about the impact that's happened across all of our lives in the last 18 months, right? So. And it's not just OpenAI. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, AI is a core ingredient of how Airbase works. Whether it's helping drive better insights in how companies spend money, or it's the AI that helps speed up processes, like when you do an expense report, we'll auto-generate the description based off the receipts and the vendor and everything else, and pre-populate everything. So you just need to upload a receipt and then hit approve. So I mean, AI is everywhere, but the pace continues to accelerate. And so I think for marketers in particular, we're seeing it on the production side. ChatGPT, hey, write this email copy, give me 10 ideas for subject lines. You've seen all that. But I think from the data perspective, it's the speed of insights that we can all get. And this is going to be particularly useful to marketers because, as I said before, most marketers are not that technical. And so AI is going to be able to give the insights for especially non-technical people, really quickly. And I mean, the speed only continues to accelerate. Like, you think about, I was talking to someone about this the other day. Like, you think about like what life was like. I mean, I was talking about, because I was a child in the 80s, what life was like in the 80s. And then you think about, what life is like just before the iPhone came out, in the early 2000s. And then you think about today and you're like, oh my gosh, everything just keeps accelerating. And so, you think about 5 years from now, the world's going to be, for a marketer, the world's going to be very different. I mean, at its core, it's going to be understand your customer, understand what they need, understand the market. We're still people making decisions, but the tools that you use and the way you'll approach your work day to day will be very different 5 years from now than it is today.
It takes the analytics out of it to free up people to kind of interpret those insights and then put them into action. So do you feel like we're being aided, or do you think some parts of marketing will be obsolete?
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say, I don't think I'd say obsolete. I think it is going to help raise the average performance overall, right? More than anything else, right? So like,
yeah,
I don't think AI is going to replace genius per se, right? So people come up, like, you go back to Apple's Think Different campaign, that AI didn't create that, right?
Yeah,
that was a unique insight that really, really captured and tied into emotions. And I mean, if you think about that Richard Dreyfuss ad about, the crazy, here's to the crazy ones, like I get goosebumps now thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So AI won't necessarily replace that, but you think about how much terrible marketing you encounter on a daily basis.
Right.
AI is going to raise the level of the average marketer or organization to produce at a higher level, faster, more consistently. I think more than anything else.
This is great. Good news. Good news for us, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, look, this was going to the very beginning of the conversation, continuous improvement. Like you always got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to go, further, farther, faster. And AI
Agree.
will just be pushing us to do it, and will give us an assist as well to do that a little bit more easily.
So this has been a great conversation. Michael, thank you so much. How can our listeners connect with you online?
I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I'm usually talking about how amazing Airbase is, because it is. So that makes it easy.
Easy to
And then
talk
also,
about.
and also check out Airbase. Everyone that's listening is probably working for an organization that spends money. So we can help you with that and make it go easier, save time, save money, work better, work faster, work smarter. So go to airbase.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, listeners, if you don't want to miss the next episode, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Catherine Chernoff, and this is Marketer's Alchemy.